Hello, everybody. This is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today, I'm going to challenge the Protestants. Where were you in 300 AD? Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et seculae seculorum. Amen. No, I mean this episode all in charity, but I think that I think that Protestants many times will have this cavalier attitude of attacking the Catholic Church, and understandably so. I mean, look, there's things that the Catholic Church has done that's not the best. The most obvious ones are going to be sex abuse scandals, but you also look at concubinage, which would kind of be a sex abuse scandal where a heterosexual priest would have like a lover on the side. You can look at simony, you can look at embezzling and all these things. So we ain't perfect. And why aren't we perfect? Because you're not perfect either. Christ talks about there's going to be wheats in the weeds, and at the end they're going to be separated. And since we have the nature of original sin on us, you're not going to find any perfect people in any human institution. But I think the Protestants were like, oh, look at the Catholics. Well, remember too, you have 2,000 years to pick through our history to find our worst faults. And we don't have that with you because your mega church down the street only existed for 20 years. But plus, it's not charitable to nitpick the personal peccadillos of people. Like I talked about recently with Michael Voris over at the Church Militant. I think there's a certain segment of the Catholic population that's like, good, I'm glad it's taken it, good. That's not charitable. We're supposed to work on charity and love for our friends and our enemies, and it's not good. So if you're all like, yeah, I think brothers and sisters of Christ, you need to work on your own self. But what do I mean, like, where were you in 300 AD? Well, there's two things here. I think one is the obvious one, the theology. Most Protestants, especially if you're not mainline, like the Lutherans arguably do have some sort of systematic theology, but certainly the megachurch evangelical churches down your street, they don't have any systematic theology. They don't have any theology at all. It's kind of this ad hoc, we're just going to grab whatever, have a lot of pop music and long sermons that make you feel good, that push the prosperity gospel so you'll keep coming back and tithing. I don't mean that in a cynical way, but that's what it is. There's no systematic theology. And I would challenge any Protestant, whether you be Mormon or Lutheran or Calvin, whatever it is, find your theology in the early church. Find your theology in the patristics. You might not even know what the patristics are because your denomination won't teach the patristics. The patristics are the church fathers. See, a lot of Protestants don't even know. We have the writings of the apostles. And we have the writings of the writings of the writings of the apostles. So the apostolic fathers, as I've talked about this before on previous episodes, these were the apostles of the apostles. So you look at Polycarp, you look at Ignatius of Antioch, you look at Clement of Rome. These were disciples of St. John, right? And we have their writings. And then you look at Irenaeus of Lyon. You look later on, Tertullian, Origen, Augustine, Ambrose. You look at the Eastern Fathers from Cappadocia. You look at St. Athanasius. We have all these writings. Eusebius of Caesarea has the great early history of the church. You can read that. And so you can see that the theology of the apostles is the theology of the Catholic Church. So if you are a salvation by faith alone guy, who are commonly going to be Bible alone guys, you can't find that theology anywhere in the early church. There isn't this, like the Mormons will always push this as a great apostasy, like, oh, this is great apostasy. They never tell you when it was, but there's some great apostasy that separated the true church of Jesus Christ and his apostles, and then it disappeared until their particular church is the true church who is mirroring back to this early church. No, we have uncontested, or I should say, we have successive writings from John, the oldest apostle, all the way through the first 1,000 years. Not just in the Roman West, but remember the apostles spread south. You look at St. Matthew, he likely was martyred down in Egypt. Thomas went to India. Of course, they went up into the what we call today the Middle East. And nowhere, anywhere in early Christian kingdoms do you find anything that is remotely supportive of salvation by faith alone or Bible alone. Nothing. So when I say where were you in 300 AD, your theology, really, you don't have a systematic theology, but any type of theology that is at your megachurch didn't exist because it was innovated. It was made up. It was made up. You can't find it in any of the church writings. So Don't be glib about, oh, the Catholic Church does this, Catholic Church does that. Look, you weren't even around. Your theology wasn't even around back then. And I like to say the Catholic Church is like the popular clique in high school. Everybody likes to crap on them, but deep down, everybody wants to be them. And all Protestants wish they had 1.3 billion people in their congregation from every nationality. You go to the typical megachurch in a town, it's all the same looking people. They all look the same. Go to a Catholic church in a large U.S. city, you're going to find Africans, you're going to find South Americans, you're going to find Filipinos, you're going to find South Koreans, you're going to find Vietnamese, you're going to find white people, you're going to find people of every color, because it's truly, truly Catholic. And what does that Greek word mean? Universal. It's truly that way. I don't mean to be uncharitable, Protestants, but I'm just saying, look, the true church is the Catholic Church. Yes, it's God's peccadillos, of course it does. But theologically, you look at apostolic succession, only the Orthodox and the Catholics can trace their lineage, not just their apostolic lineage back, but the theologic. It's uncontested. Cardinal Newman, famous line, 19th century English convert to Catholicism, well-respected intellectual. He said, those who read history cease to be Protestant. And I would challenge any of you Protestants, if you're earnest about learning the truth, systematic theology truth, go read the Didache. Go read the letters of Clement of Rome. Go read the letters of Ignatius of Antioch. Read these apostolic fathers, and you'll be shocked how they talk about the Eucharist, the real presence in the Eucharist, veneration to the saints. Everything that the Catholic Church teaches was there in the early church. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.